You know, you might find a lot of shy people in this world, but Kevin Saunders, he's not one of them. He's the head coach of the Gretna Hawks. He joined me on the Sports Buffet podcast. We touch on the Hawks and review their matchup against Chatham and talk about Nelson County tonight up in Lovingston. And then Coach Saunders and I break away from the Gretna side and talk about some big games coming up tonight. Alta Vista and Appomattox, you can hear that on 105.5 KD Country. Brookville and Heritage, probably going to be on a radio dial near you as well. You can check that one out. And also we talk about some old school football. What gets crowds, what gets fans in the seats, and gets those big crowds. Kevin Saunders talks about that and more on the Sports Buffet podcast.
Always fun to catch up with Kevin Saunders, head coach of the Gretna Hawks here on the Sports Buffet podcast. Hawks will head to Lovingston, where Gretna has had some issues in the past here and there, but not many losses. Coach Saunders joins me now. Before we look ahead to the long trip up 29, let's look back to the county rivalry game with Chatham. I think a lot of people were surprised just in the fact that they put up some points on you, but Chatham is not a bad football team.
No, Chatham's got a good football team. They're really good. Got some good skill kids, and offensive line played well the other night. They had a good football team. We knew it going in, and we battled. Once again, our kids found a way to win a football game.
We keep talking about it, we're getting closer. Are we getting closer to that breakout game, or are you just satisfied if, we're going to fight, we're going to scratch, we're going to claw, we're not going to quit, we're going to win?
I think, I'm pretty pleased with everything. I mean, eventually we're going to break out. Offensively, we've been good for the most part all year, so I felt good about that. We had 5 busts the other night on defense, and 2 of them were alignment problems, so that did that. And we're marginal on defense. We got some kids that play well and that play okay, but we don't have the person that can make up for somebody's mistake. So if we're not perfect, then we give up a mistake, and then it's a touchdown. It's a big play, and that's some of the problem that we've had is we've given up way too many big plays, and a lot of it's to do with youth and experience. Getting caught up in what's going on in the game and not playing their assignments and their technique. And, at times we're really, really good, and then at times where you just have a breakdown here and there. So, you just got to keep fighting through it. And, we've only lost 2 football games. And so, we've lost to 2 really good football teams. Other than that, we've beat some really good football teams. We beat Tunstall, who's as good as, had Magna Vista beat the other night. Probably should have won that game. And, I feel good about where we are with our football team.
Rarely, I think, do you guys get put in the position where you're flying under the radar, but to me it almost seems like you are right now, even in your own district, which is loaded with some good teams, and we'll talk about that in a minute too. Do you feel like you're flying under the radar? And if so, how do you convey that to your guys when they're not used to that predicament?
Well, a lot of this is new to them because everything they're doing is new. So, everything that's going on this year, they've taken it one game at a time, very much so, and they know, and I really believe that all championships in the dogwood run through Gretna. I think we're in a position that we can somewhat control how, things turn out a little bit. I know that Dan River and Alta Vista still have to play, and Alta Vista has to play Appomattox. We have to play Appomattox and Dan River and Nelson County. So I feel good about where we are, and truthfully, with the new playoff system, the district championship means very, very little. And other than the fact of just saying you're district champions, that's about it. Other than that, you just want a good seeding for the playoffs. I mean, we got the playoffs as a 5 seed last year and had a great year, made a great run in the playoffs. So, all you want to do is just get into the playoffs and have a good seed and a good side of the bracket, and hopefully you can do those things.
When we look at the Hawks from day one to now, what impresses you the most about where this team has come from, if that makes sense?
We've got really good. Our offensive line has gotten better. It's taken us a while to get our defense, probably our personnel defense exactly the way we want it. I mean, you got 4 defensive linemen that never played. We're really playing 7 defensive linemen, and none of them played very much last year at all. So, if you're looking at their 7th game or whatever, that's all they played. 4 new linebackers, 2 new kids in secondary. The only one that's back is Dion at safety, and he's playing
Why do a lot of people struggle when they have to go up to Lovingston?
I don't know. I've always loved going up there. I've always loved going to Nelson County. Can't tell you the last time. I don't know in my coaching career if I've ever been unfortunate to lose a game up there. There have been some really good teams that I've taken up there from William Campbell, and they've had some really good teams there in Nelson County when they were in Seminole, and I've loved always going up there. But that was the old stadium, which I loved. It just had that atmosphere. Just a different old-timey football field, and I love those things. Now they got a great facility, and everybody talks about the ride and all that. Well, we've already been on a 4-hour bus ride. We've had 2-hour, a 2.5-hour ride to scrimmage. So I don't think that's the thing about. I know everybody talks about it, but I don't see it. And our kids haven't said anything about it. So I don't know. I mean, we've had to go up there 2 years in a row for JV games. So that's been, these kids for JV kids, they've had a trip. So we'll see. I don't put much into the bus trip and that kind of thing.
Speaking of some trips, let's take a trip around the area for Friday night, and I'll get you to break down a couple games. I know you haven't played Appomattox yet. We talked about they're coming up, but a big one with them and Alta Vista. How do you see that one shaking?
Oh, it's going to be a good football game. I'm the Blankenship kid for Appomattox. Me and his dad grew up together, and he was my quarterback here after high school when I played offensive line, and we grew up in the same neighborhood. His dad was a great athlete, and he's a very good athlete. I think he's the key to their football team, and I think if they stop the veer, that Appomattox is running, which I think the speed of Alta Vista will give them some problems with that. If Appomattox can play some defense and can hopefully contain Thornhill, I think if you make Thornhill throw the ball, you're better off than him running it. And that's not to say he doesn't throw the ball well, but I just think you got to make him more one-dimensional as far as throwing and letting him run the ball. I would do things a little bit different from what we did the first time we played him. Our rush lanes weren't very solid, and that hurt us. We took the pass away a little bit, but he ran the ball really well against us. So it's going to be, if you can stop them from running the ball, I think you'll be all right.
And then another one that you have absolutely zero interest in terms of it does not affect you district-wise or anything like that, but I know you know the two head coaches fairly well, Brookville and Heritage, Battle of Unbeaten at City Stadium. How do you see that one going down?
I think it's a great game. I just wish it was in a different atmosphere. I don't. City Stadium, since the days of Bo Henson and G.W. Danville, those days of the stadium being packed, when it used to be when those two teams played and when EC Glass and G.W. played, those games at City Stadium were incredible. I just would hope that, the people in Heritage and the fans for Heritage will come out to the game like Glass used to. They were there with in the old Western, I guess it's the Western District then with G.W. Danville, and that was probably one of the top games in the state of Virginia every year, and they would pack both places. So hopefully this can take some of that.
Let me interrupt you real quick in terms of, I think, and I'm not the oldest timer in the world. I graduated from Jefferson Forest in 1997. I remember when Bo Henson was coaching at Glass and Eddie Martin was at GW and all this and all that.
Incredible.
But
incredible.
But go ahead.
That was what rivalries were.
Right.
I can go back to those days when it was, G.W. Danville and E.C. Glass at one time was probably one of the top rivals in the state of Virginia as far as teams playing each other. I mean, that is as big a time as you can get between those two playing each other. I mean, the stadium was packed. You had two charismatic coaches that that were legends while they were coaching. And I mean, that was just the way football used to be. I mean, to me, that was, it was incredible when they would get to the games, and they had both teams had this swagger about them, and those were just incredible games and atmosphere and everything. You don't see many of those games anymore with the atmosphere and the hoopla, and they didn't like one. That was the other thing. Those two teams didn't like each other. The coaches didn't like each other. Danville didn't like Lynchburg. I mean, that's the way it was. It was Lynchburg versus Danville, and it was awesome.
Well, I would argue Bradley's got a little bit of charisma in that 5 foot whatever frame of his, but
well, yeah, him and Woody can bring that swagger. They're some of the coaches that can do those things.
Right. But
and I look at that and I see that both of them, and that's what's really can do that. I just don't know what community support Heritage will get compared to the way it used, Glass used to get. Because when Glass played, everybody in Lynchburg came and watched them.
Right. Well, and that's kind of one of the points I was going to get at, though, because it seemed like to me back in the day, the general high school football fan, if there is such a thing, would go to the biggest game. And this week, I think Heritage and Brookville is the biggest game. No disrespect to anybody else, but
none taken. I would like to be able to go to the game.
Right.
I remember when I was at William Campbell, I would have given anything some of those nights to then watch G.W. Danville and E.C. Glass play.
But
that's fun.
Yeah, but the thing is, to me, it seemed like, and I could be totally wrong on this, and you can tell me if I am, because I'm sure you will. But I mean, to me, it seemed like everybody else didn't. Not as many people went to, X game that week in terms of, I think Amherst fan support is a lot more, the JF support. It seems to me people are now more aligned with schools back when they would used to go to the best game, and I think Heritage and Brookville has a shot at being a very good game.
I think it's going to be a great game, and I understand what you're saying, and I think you get that. But you still have those communities that were really, and then no disrespect to Heritage, but back in Bo's heyday, Heritage was just like the stepchild. I mean, it was E.C. Glass, period, in a discussion. I mean, the two of the top 5 jobs probably in the state of Virginia were G.W. Danville and E.C. Glass at the time. And that was with Hampton and those schools. I mean, they were ranked as good as any, job in the state of Virginia. So,
Well, I'll tell you what, I would love to get you and Woody and Bradley all to sit down at some point once the season ends to just talk old time, new time, everything high school football. But the thing, I know, and I mean, it would be, as long as I get my meal paid for by one of you millionaires, it'll be a great.
You get Woody to do it. He's the slumlord that owns all the stuff.
It'll be a great thing, but to me too, and I'll kind of extend this into Southwest Virginia, which you also know a little bit about.
Yeah.
I mean, back in the day, correct me if I'm wrong, but Salem, Pulaski, places like that were packed to where I'm sure they're not packed like that now.
No. The Radford-Pulaski game still gets a huge crowd, and that's one of the fewer, games that still has some rivalry to it, and Radford has been able to upset them the last few years, so that's added to that rivalry there. Brookville-Jessamine Forest has always been a rivalry.
But what made Pulaski and Salem packed? I mean, how much did Joel Hicks and Willis White have to do with that?
Oh, they had a lot to do with it, because, it was always about, how many recruits could Salem get to come to, play at Salem. They get Lord Botetourt's best player, Northside's best player, da-da-da-da-da. And, that was always the thing that Pulaski would say, and Pulaski be practicing all year round, and it was always, stuff swirling around about it. And that was a huge rivalry. You got to have a little bit, to me, for a rivalry, and it don't take as long. There's got to be, I don't want to say hatred, but there's got to be dislike for each school.
Right. I'm totally
from the community, from the coaches, from the players. Period.
I'm totally with you on that. I mean, I don't see anything wrong with having mutual respect with somebody in terms of I'm sure, and I don't know. You tell me if I'm wrong. Bo and Eddie, I'm sure, had mutual respect, even if they didn't like each other. I'm sure there was respect there.
They respected each other, but you didn't want to be in the same room with them. They did not like each other.
Right. We couldn't have done that podcast. Yeah, we couldn't have done that podcast with them too. But I mean, and
that's what made them so great.
Right. I'm with you. Right. I'm with you on this one.
I mean, they could walk in a room and they could intimidate people by just showing up.
Right.
And they could, you get Willis White to walk in a room, and those guys like that, when they walked in, Mike Smith walks in, people just, hunker down.
Right.
And you don't have that much anymore. For one is most coaches don't stay in coaching very long anymore. Most coaches don't stay at the same school very long anymore. And that's some of the problems with rivalries, I think, that goes out the window.
Yeah, well, we could get on that for a good hour, but we'll, like I said, I promise you that's going to come down the road with you, Bradley, Woody, and anybody else that wants to join in. So let's bring it back full circle, though, to close. And as always, I appreciate it. Give me 3 keys that gives you a victory over Nelson County, with 1 being offense, 1 being defense, 1 in special teams.
Well, in all phases, you got to cut down the mental mistakes. We've got to line up properly on defense, and we have to tackle the football. When we do those, we have a chance to keep the game. We got to quit giving up the big play. Offensively, no turnovers, no stupid penalties. Do that.
What's a stupid penalty?
A stupid penalty is offsides. Put you first and 15. You hear people talk about being behind the chains. Mm-hmm. You always want to gain yardage on first down. You want to be at 2nd and 4, 2nd and 5. It's easier to call plays when you're at 2nd and 5, 2nd and 4. It's much easier to call play than at, say, 3rd and 12, 1st and 15. Those are hard plays. Those are really hard plays in high school football. So, you got to make sure you get everybody not to make a mistake. And it's defensively, we have to make people drive the ball. More time an offense has the ball, more chance they have to make a mistake,
right.
Fumble, a negative play, those kind of things. Then you get them behind the chains. If we can make people drive the ball instead of giving up the big plays, then we're going to be really good on defense, and then we'll eventually be a really good football team. We do those, we got a chance to win against anybody.
Special teams?
We got to keep in there. We're playing really well in this kicking game. Kicker kicked a 44-yard field goal the other night. He's only missed 1 extra point all year, and he's perfect on his field goals. So he's doing a great job. He also sprays the ball around. Jason does a great job. We can move the ball around as far as kicking. We can kick to different spots on the field. He does a good job doing our directional punting, which makes returns hard. We keep doing those things. We'll have a good chance.
Coach, several reasons I love talking to you. 1, you pick up the phone. 2, we always can have the debate and make it a good old-fashioned fun debate as well. Always look forward to it. Always look forward to it. Best of luck against the Governors. We'll talk to you next week.
I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.